Good afternoon. I had the opportunity to know Peggy Kellner and director Craig Knoll at the Old Town Theater in the years between the 1970s and 1990s. Peggy Kellner was a close friend to Martin Garish, and Garish was my mentor at the Grove Playhouse in San Diego, California. All three of them were friends with my Uncle Victor Charles Buono. I would say that the closest two women in Victor Charles' life was his mother Myrtle Buono and Peggy Kellner as well. As for director Craig Knoll, I would say that Knoll was closer as a father to him. Victor Charles had something in common with Bette Davis. When she was in the motion picture comedy, The Man Who Came to Dinner on January 1st, 1942, and was filmed at Warner Brothers. 17 years later, in 1959, Victor Charles was 20 years old when he was performing on the Old Globe Theater stage in the production of The Man Who Came to Dinner as well. Frank Sinatra, who Victor Charles would intimately know in 1963, had young girl Bobbysoxers screaming and fainting when singing on December 30th, 1942, at the Paramount Theater in New York City. And he described it saying, "The sound that greeted me was absolutely deafening. It was a tremendous roar. 5,000 kids stamping, yelling, screaming, and applauding. I was scared, stiff. I couldn't move a muscle. Band leader Benny Goodman froze too. He was so scared he turned around, looked at the audience, and said, 'What the hell is that?' I burst out laughing." Director Craig Knoll at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, California in 1942 was 26 years old when he entered the United States Army and went to fight during World War II. Knoll didn't return to beautiful Balboa Park near the Old Globe Theater until 1947, when he then became its official artistic director. At the beginning of World War II in 1942, Father John R. Ahern, he was teaching at the Villanova Preparatory School in California, and he soon was sent to teach at St. Augustine High School in San Diego, California. At 3 years old at that time, Victor Charles didn't know that one of his mentors was only a 4-minute drive from his house to St. Augustine High School, where he would be attending as student in the future. With 1945 coming into view, Victor Francis moved his family to 4495 44th Street in San Diego, and their house was only 1 block away from Hoover High School, where my 15 years old father, Sonny, would soon be attending school there, and he would be playing on their Hoover Cardinals football team. Victor Charles was 4 years old at this time, and his size and weight gave the first concerns to his parents of how big he would grow. At some point in the early 1940s, Victor Francis soon was promoted to being one of the San Diego Vice Squad officers to regulate bars and hotels in the slum sections of San Diego City. Victor Charles was now 5 years old in 1944, and my father Sonny was 17 years old. Sonny asked his mother Myrtle Bell and stepfather Victor Francis to sign the necessary official documents of the United States Navy to allow him to be a new naval recruit going into World War II. They honored his wishes by signing their permission, and he soon left his friends at Hoover High School and went off to fight in the South Pacific War. My father, Sonny, never described the reasons to me why he wanted to go to fight in a war when he was only 17 years old. It may have been his grudge against the Japanese for killing his father, Louis Rupert Erica, or for domestic struggles that were going on within Victor Francis's home at 4495 44th Street in San Diego. There is definitely more secrets than answers during those early days within 1944. Both domestic problems and possible reasons on the streets of San Diego when Victor Francis was a newly vice squad officer. Victor Charles turned 6 years old in 1945 and was still living at 4495 44th Street in San Diego. My father, Sonny, was 18 years old in the South Pacific aboard a U.S. naval transport ship, waiting for orders to invade Japan. Myrtle Bell's sister, Sylvia Brittenbach's son, Carl Brittenbach, was also on the very same ship as my father, and their half-sister, Mary Jane Bolovich Morris, husband, Melvin Ward Morris, was flying a U.S. Navy torpedo plane somewhere in the South Pacific Theater. When 1946 entered, Victor Francis and Myrtle Bell had a newborn son, David Francis Buono, on June 20th, 1946, and my 18 years old father, Sonny, and 7 years old Victor Charles had another brother in the family. They were still living at 4495 44th Street next to Hoover High School. On May 17, 1946, there was a newspaper article printed in the Arizona Daily Star listing Peggy Kellner's name being in the high school production of M. Lee's. Kellner would become a longtime influential friend of Victor Charles for his entire life. She was born on the very same day and month as Victor Charles was on February 3rd, 1928, in Tucson, Arizona. When they first met in 1956 at the Oak Globe Theater in San Diego, Peggy Kellner was 27 years old and Victor Charles was almost 18 years old. Kellner graduated from the Amphitheater High School in Tucson, Arizona at around 1947 and graduated from the University of Arizona around 1952.